the Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
'Twas the night before Thanksgiving,
and all through the show.
Welcome. Oh, yeah, Jason was supposed to say something.
Oh, you were the rhyme guy, and you blew it.
I got cut off by Mr. Hosty Host.
I'm sorry. I've never been called that before. I'm not certain I like it.
Hosty Host?
Mr. Hosty Host himself.
It makes me hungry for delicious hostess cakes. That's
Wait,
everybody's thinking about.
Hostesses?
Not the hostesses.
Oh
I mean, come on.
We've never had a worse
hostess
start
cakes.
to a show.
And that's what I'm thankful for.
Okie dokie. It's Wednesday, November 25th, and this is the jumbo package. We've got a long show today.
Mega.
By long, I mean great.
Yeah.
And by great, I mean we've got news and notes. We got sits of the week. We got starts of the week. We have fantasy forecast. We have the mailbag. We even got some trivia on the show today.
What?
Man, I feel like I need to do some extremely rigorous stretching and warm up calisthenics before this show.
Yeah, I mean, that'll help.
But I didn't because stretching is dumb. Randy Moss has taught me that stretching is overrated and you don't need it when you're a superstar at your craft like me.
You know what? I'm a superstar on my craft.
On Minecraft?
No. We won our flag football game.
Oh,
again.
congratulations.
We're 5-1.
Love it.
My son asked me the other day, he goes, in your flag football league? He sounds a lot like the voice of public opinion. And he says, no, who's the best team? And I thought about it, and I was like, maybe the Honey Badgers are the best team. I mean, we've won a championship before.
Right.
We've only lost one game.
Right.
We're destroying people, shutting people out. And yes, I'm saying we, even though I've only played one game this season.
I was going to say, you've shown up for one game.
Yeah.
But you played a mean right guard.
Thank you.
I'm on the
No, the other guy was really mean. You played against him.
I'm on the non-football injury list.
Yeah, you guys are a couple of weasels.
Moving to the show.
Healthy
All right.
scratch.
What's something you're thankful for? What's something you're thankful for this Thanksgiving season? It only makes sense to ask the question. I'm happy to answer it.
Yeah, I'll bet you're very happy to answer it.
So many options, right? So friends, family, the show, you guys, everything that's going on. Plenty to be thankful for. I'm going to go with Thomas Rawls.
I feel
I'm
like
go with Thomas Rawls.
a new tattoo is being sketched up for one Andy Holloway on
And it
Thomas
says,
Rawls.
I love sports hernias.
It does. On the top, it says Rawls forever. On the bottom, it says sports hernias forever.
Yeah.
I picked him up 2 weeks ago in our league of record, the same league I lost Deion Lewis and Arian Foster in, and I picked him up instead of my brother-in-law who owns Marshawn Lynch, who gave me a lecture of why he didn't need Thomas Rawls. And so this coming to fruition is just like Christmas morning.
Yeah, if you haven't heard the news. Andy,
I guess we'll start. We could start there.
Well, just let them know.
Yeah. I mean, Marshawn Lynch is reported, Ian Rappaport reports he's undergoing sports hernia surgery. Earliest he could possibly be back would be 4 weeks, which is very optimistic. So he will be irrelevant for fantasy owners, most likely, for the rest of the season.
Jason, what are you thankful for?
Like Andy said, a lot of different options. I'm going to go with the option that is probably just the most true. I am thankful for the Foot Clan, the actual listeners of this
I thought
show.
you were going to say the most sappy.
Well, you could argue that as well. But honestly, I am very thankful for our listeners. And I don't just mean the fact that, that they listen and they support us. I'm actually thankful for who they are. Like, I'm thankful that we have intelligent, smart, funny, fun-loving listeners who actually get it.
Like Tony Meatball.
Well, yes, like Tony Meatball and the whole range of the Foot Clan. I honestly think we have the best listeners, not of just sports shows, but like of any shows. I feel like it's just the three of us times 800,000 just listening. We're out there listening to ourselves.
There was some high quality water apps or water videos that came through last night. Ooh. I don't know if you guys got a chance.
I have not seen them yet.
Okay, and I'm going with something that was so it's recency bias.
What are you thankful for, Mike?
Recency bias, so we got to go with it.
I
am thankful for online leagues that actually function correctly.
Okay, explain yourself.
We get asked constantly, what online service do you prefer? and we prefer ESPN. We've played on all of them. At least I've played on all of them.
Yahoo,
Yeah,
NFL.com.
And we even tried moving our league over to other services. It didn't work out, so we came back to ESPN. It's the best fit for our league. And last night on the NFL the fantasy service, I'm trying to set my waivers, and I have 0 bid because I have no fab left. So I have 0 bids in on a bunch of guys. I can't prioritize them. So it's just randomly going to pick who is the first one in the running through the list.
You are not pleased.
I was infuriated because there's a bunch of guys that I wanted, but there is a very specific order in which I wanted them.
That seems crazy.
So I had to just delete a whole bunch of the guys and hope that one of them comes through that I want. It's a ridiculous thing, so I'm thankful for when a system works.
Yeah, that way you don't get all frustrated.
Yes.
All right. If you want to follow the show, you know how to do it. Go to the website, thefantasyfootballers.com. You can follow us on Twitter at @theFFBallers. You can visit and join our fantasy football community at jointhefoot.com. Be a part of our official Foot Clan. We have some people joining every single day, sharing their joy for Thomas Rawls all through the land. And, it's an exciting place to be.
I'm going to subscribe on YouTube.
Yes, yeah. No, you're right. And we also appreciate your reviews and support on the iTunes app and wherever you're listening. All right. We did this last week. People really liked it, but now we got both of you here. We're going to do a little trivia. Our quick question of the day, I'm going to pretend to be 3 players. You guys have to identify who I am.
All right.
Okay?
You want to play a game?
And I think well, let me ask Mike here. When I ask these, do you guys want to take turns guessing, or do you just want to be the first one that can say it?
First one is fine.
All right, we'll do that. I have rushed for 50 or more yards in every game I have played, except for 2. However, I have only scored 1 rushing touchdown, and I have never eclipsed 20 fantasy points in any formatted league. Who am I? And I can give
rushed for 50 yards
in every game.
He's played 3 games.
No, that is not true.
I feel like I've got my guess, but I'm pretty positive he's eclipsed 20 fantasy points in a game, which would disqualify my guess.
Well, you could always guess,
Okay,
and then we'll find out.
I'm going to go with Darren McFadden.
Well, that one carry. I'm going to go with TJ Yeldon.
Ding, 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 ding,
Oh!
ding, ding, ding. TJ Yeldon. TJ
Nice.
Yeldon is the answer to that question. 50 or more in every game, except for 2, but hasn't eclipsed 20. All right, number 2. Jason's up 1-0. In PPR leagues, I scored 10 or more fantasy points in every game except this past week. I'm also the only player to have a fellow wide receiver that ranks in the top 15 in terms of fantasy points. Who am I?
All right.
Who am I?
I've got
scored. Okay, you go ahead.
I've got my guess. I feel like it's got to either be the 2 top fantasy teams. It has to be either Eric Decker or Michael Crabtree. PPR. It said PPR. I'm going Crabtree.
I'm going to go with Decker.
Oh.
It is neither, and you are both completely in the right vein. You are in the perfect vein, except for you just didn't say this name.
Amari Cooper.
Nope.
Brandon Marshall. What's the vein we're in?
No, you're in the wide receiver 2 vein.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is the correct vein, so I wouldn't say a bunch of ones.
Well,
you want another
thought you were
chance
saying
at guessing?
No, just give us the answer.
It's Alan Hearns. It's Alan Hearns.
Of course.
Yes. So you
Alan.
guys you picked the 2 kind of like wide receiver 2s that have done well this year and not the 3rd one that we always talk about. All right, so nobody gets a point. Jason's still ahead. In standard leagues, I have never scored a single-digit point week. Of 10 games I've played, I've eclipsed at least 18 fantasy points in half of them, and my ADP was number 22 for quarterbacks. So I am a quarterback. I have never scored in single digits.
Carson Palmer.
No.
Jay Cutler.
No.
All right.
Hold on. So he was 22nd for.
So he's only played of the 10 games I've played. That's why I went with
Bortles?
Cutler, because Cutler missed.
No, this person didn't miss any games.
Oh, really?
Not Bortles.
Oh, 22nd quarterback.
He had a good week. He had a real good week.
He had a good,
good week.
No one had a good week.
Yes, he did. Yes, they did. Come on.
I'm trying to think.
Monster week, record-setting week this past week.
Oh, who was it? Oh, Jameis Winston?
That is correct.
Yes.
Jameis Winston. He is, including, I'll throw this in there for you. Winston is now, in most standard leagues, the quarterback number 12, which is a quarterback 1. He has eclipsed over 18 in the past, in half of them.
And he was not in our streams of the week yesterday, but
he was almost
he
in
was
our
in
stream.
Consideration as he has a decent matchup. Who's he playing?
I think
the
Indianapolis.
Colts. He plays the Colts.
I'm signing him in a couple leagues to play this week, including in one. I'm going to play him over Andy Dalton.
There are actually quite a few good streaming options this week, especially after the news that McCown is going to be the starter. I think he's a good streaming option. You got the two rookies are both good streaming options, and Winston and Mariota. So
yep. All right.
Also, this is a great time while you talk about how great Jameis Winston was to point out that I had a Winston versus Mariota water bet before the year. So what's next, Andy?
They have to be close. They have to be close.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, those two guys that'll go down to the wire. All right, we're gonna go ahead and what are we gonna do? Let's move it on.
News and notes from around the league.
All right, the big news. And I kind of, when Adam Schefter does this, I'm kind of like, Like Adam Schefter tried to come out before everybody else, and he's like, yeah, Marshawn's going to miss a couple weeks and see how it feels. But now the report is that he's going to undergo sports hernia surgery on Wednesday morning, and Thomas Rawls is an RB1.
Yep, can't disagree.
I mean, that's really the gist of that. So,
do you know, and this should be a really easy question to answer after what the lead-in is, do you know what team in the NFL leads the league in average yards run per game?
So as in which team runs them?
Yeah,
the most yards on the ground?
most average yards per game.
Seahawks.
That is correct. Thomas Rawls, your only guy there.
Yeah.
And I heard his number on the way in talking about how in the first half of the season, the Seahawks had scored 12 touchdowns. In the last 2 weeks, they have scored 7.
Yeah.
So
getting it together a little bit.
Could be turning around up there in Seattle.
Well, the big thing, if you look at Russell Wilson, he had, I believe, 7 straight games with 1 touchdown. And he had 3 this past week against San Francisco, and including 1 to Rawls. So
always helps when you can play San Francisco.
So just confirming Rawls should be that number 1 waiver claim. I mean, by now he probably was for you, hopefully. All right, Peyton Manning. It's been announced he will miss at least the next 2 weeks. I guess they want to set an expectation instead of a speculation out there.
Yeah,
fantasy spin.
And he's just here's the deal though. What I'm interested in. Let's say that Osweiler comes out, has a good game, beats the Patriots on Sunday Night Football. They are in a predicament in Denver to me. I don't know if Andy agrees because Andy thinks that Peyton Manning should be back in. If Osweiler plays well, especially this Sunday and then over the next 2 weeks, I think you have to leave Osweiler in because Manning was a hindrance to that offense with how much he was turning the ball over.
It reminds me a lot of when Colin Kaepernick took over for Alex Smith.
Good.
They had a good team that was winning with Alex Smith. Alex Smith goes down. Kaepernick comes in, plays better than Smith played, and they said, I got to stick with who's going to be the best
stay
chance
in the
of winning.
flames.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, it's going to come down to whether they actually believe a lot of Manning's problems were injury-related or play-related. You know what I mean? There's decision-making problems, but there's also, your brain tells you what your body can do, and then if your body's not working.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a balance there, and I think, it could be a short leash for Peyton, too. That could be the situation when he comes back.
Fantasy-wise, I think what this says is that Brock Osweiler is a guy that, if he comes out and does all right, he's a streaming candidate that on the right matchup you should be able to play.
Maybe. Yeah.
But, we got to see it. And really, if you're a Demaryius Thomas owner, Mike, if you're an Emmanuel Sanders owner, Jason, are you wanting Osweiler in there, or is it TBD?
That's to be determined because they still had, or I guess not Sanders because he didn't play, but Demaryius Thomas had that nice big touchdown, but that was about all he did. If you're a Owen Daniels or a Vernon Davis owner, you sure want Osweiler in there.
Okay, so let's move it on. Johnny Manziel, the the one selling point for that Monday Night Football matchup between the Cleveland Browns and the Baltimore Ravens is no longer starting.
We got to make some new commercials.
Yeah.
Hey, get together. We got to
quickly.
make new commercials.
Get the B-roll on Matt Schaub. Get the B-roll on Matt Schaub. Is he going to throw some picks? Watch him throw some pick sixes on Monday Night Football.
It's improved from Matt Schaub versus Johnny Football to Matt Schaub versus Josh McCown.
Buck Allen might be the highlight in those videos.
Oh, I sure hope so.
So basically, Manziel demoted to third string. Mike Pettin came out. There were videos and reports of him partying, and basically he came out and said this, and this is the gist of the whole thing. You broke the trust of the team. You broke the trust that was put into you. It doesn't matter what you did. You did something that was contrary to what we trusted you not to do as a leader of the team, and now he's not long for the – I don't think he's long for the Browns.
I would agree.
And I think he'll get another chance for sure. Someplace, maybe, you keep saying with Johnny Manziel, maybe he'll wake up this time. He does not care about football as much as he cares about his personal life.
Yeah, well, I don't want to
true.
get into that too much because he could have a legitimate problem. So either way, he got demoted. He partied his way into the third string. And what we don't know actually is if this is just 1 week, a 1 week demotion, and then they're going to reevaluate next week, or if this is a season-long saying whatever we're going to play McCown. What I think is kind of leans towards it might be just this 1 week is, and I know NFL teams want to win games, but Josh McCown, for how well he's played, is not the future of the Cleveland Browns. If anybody has a chance, you throw Austin Davis in there. Well, he had a couple games last year where he was okay. If you want to check out maybe do we have a quarterback of the future, you got to put Austin Davis out there. And because McCown he's likely done.
Yeah, I think that Manziel's done with the Browns. I think the Browns more accurately are done with Manziel.
Yes.
That's why they put him
Yes.
behind Austin Davis. Manziel next year he'll get cut or traded and he'll go to Rex Ryan and the Bills and be a running quarterback there.
Yeah, it's possible. So, Dynasty League owners with Justin Forsett and that broken arm, Ravens coach John Harbaugh came out and said Justin Forsett is a, quote, big part of what we're doing moving forward. You don't need to put too much stock into that. We got a whole offseason to figure that out. But as a dynasty owner, you're curious, is he going to be, is Buck Allen going to just take the lead dog role with Taliaferro next year? Sounds like Forsett, they want to bring him back, at least vocally right now. Danny Amendola, we had the news yesterday or 2 days ago about the sprained knee. The report is that he's not going to miss an extended period of time. How do you feel, Mike?
That is fantastic news as someone who bought heavily into Amendola around my leagues. It's also a sigh of relief for Tom Brady owners, in my opinion. I think without Amendola or Edelman, that Tom Brady really takes a hit. We saw what the Bills were able to do against Gronkowski when there's really not the serviceable weapons around for Tom Brady. You just double him on the line or you force him to block. And Tom Brady really took a hit, and he's got this matchup this week against Denver. I think that if Amendola is not playing, that Tom Brady will struggle to put up those high-level quarterback one numbers. I still have him as a QB1 this week, but very low end. So there's other guys who I want to play.
Did you start Brian Hoyer over Tom Brady this week?
Man, the ceiling of Brian Hoyer is higher than Brady's this week. So I don't know if that means I will play him over Brady, but the ceiling, if you need ceiling, you would have to go with Hoyer.
Yeah.
What a world.
I know, what a world. All right, Tyrod Taylor's expected to play this week. Alshon Jeffrey was limited in Tuesday's practice. You need to monitor him moving forward. And really sad news that broke this morning, Stedman Bailey was shot in the head twice in Miami. Thoughts and prayers with his family. I know he's in the most recent reports, critical but stable condition, not expected to be life-threatening.
Yeah.
So, that's tough. Matt Forte confirmed he will play on Thursday against the Packers.
Yep. That's a very interesting situation to monitor as well, because I can't imagine that Forte comes in off of this injury at his age, and then they say, okay, you're going to take 80% of the snaps again, especially with how well Langford played. You got to expect something like a 60-40.
Do you guys know Joseph Randle got arrested again?
No.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Yeah.
In a casino, right?
Are you surprised?
No.
The underwear burglar strikes again.
Yeah, he was too drunk in a casino, and they tried to escort him out, and he went berserk on him, and now he got arrested. So,
Man.
at this point, it's gone from, humorous jokes about underwear burglar to dude probably has major life problems that need to be helped. So, all right,
before we get to our sits of the week, along with the rest of the Megalodon Thanksgiving edition of the Fantasy Footballers.
Oh, I love that.
We just want to take a second to thank the sponsor of today's show, which is FanDuel. Listen, Foot Clan, we want to turn that holiday spirit into a winning spirit with FanDuel, and FanDuel's new friend selector makes it easier than ever to play against your friends and your family this holiday season. You can make a private league and just take on the people you know and say, hey, I'm a better FanDuel player than you.
That's awesome.
And now you can prove it, because FanDuel is the best place to play 1 week fantasy football. You play for real money. Building a team is easy. Just pick your players, stay under the salary cap. Entry fees start at just $1. Anyone could play. And a reminder, basketball is also here, and they're playing basketball over at FanDuel.com. And take advantage of this week's Thursday-only slate. 3 games. You can play a Thanksgiving edition of FanDuel. And this is what we need the Foot Clan to do. We need you to go to FanDuel.com. You click on the microphone in the upper right-hand corner. You use our promo code BALLERS. Ballers. And this is what you're going to get. For new users, you make a deposit and you get free entry into a 50-50 money league, and that's you just finish in the top half of the standings and you get money in your account the next day. And the only way to get this exclusive offer is to go to FanDuel.com, click the microphone, use our promo code BALLERS.
All right, let's move it on.
Sits of the week.
I forgot that we had to...
Hey, look, you got to go with what you got.
No, and I have to. I'm the audio person of the show, and I was out of town.
Yep.
And they were in a crunch, the fellas, and Andy did a spectacular job.
Thank you.
At hacking something together.
Good enough.
Yeah, good enough. And now I will fix that up.
We'll sit that audio drop next week.
We'll get it polished. There you go. Hey, all right, let's start it. Sits of the week. My quarterback sit of the week is none other than Tyrod Taylor. Let me read you the numbers that Kansas City has been giving up to fantasy quarterbacks the last 4 weeks. 9, 14, 6, 8. They be shutting people down.
Wait, quarterback numbers?
Those are the numbers that quarterbacks have been giving up.
Is that bad?
That's not good. Those are not kicker numbers. Those are quarterback numbers. Tyrod Taylor's also banged up. Hasn't been that great in fantasy the last few starts. So sit him down. Pick somebody else, like Brian Hoyer.
Yeah, my quarterback sit of the week this week is Matty Ice. Matt Ryan.
Throwing ice.
Yeah, he was right now he is currently not even in the top 12 for fantasy quarterbacks, but his name and his main target and Julio, they make you want to play him, and sometimes he's a good play, right? Andy had him
last week
as a stream of the week, and he was great. Or I believe start of the week. This week, however, he's going up against Minnesota. And what we see from those Minnesota Vikings is, generally speaking, low-scoring games. We've seen that with Atlanta recently as well. So I just don't expect enough volume in this game to be a guy that's going to win you a week. I could see him having a down week. So I would sit Matt Ryan for other options this week.
I'm going to throw this in there for you. Last week was the first week all year that he had 3 touchdowns. Do you know that?
Yep.
He has not had a 3-touchdown game except for last week.
Matt Ryan has been very disappointing. My sit of the week at the quarterback position is Russell Wilson. And last week against San Francisco was his first multi-TD home game of the year, and now the Steelers are coming in, and the Steelers have revamped their defense. They are no longer the laughing stock of the NFL at the defensive side of the ball. So I don't think Russell Wilson is going to give you the quarterback numbers that you need.
Totally agree. Why don't you give us your running back?
My running back, I'm going to sit Latavius Murray this week. It's been a rough couple weeks. He's averaging 3 yards a carry the last 2 games, and Tennessee has been surprisingly tough against running backs. So if I have a better option than Latavius, I'm going to throw him out there.
Okay.
For me, I'm gonna sit Jeremy Langford this week because Matt Forte is back. You don't know how it's going to split up. I agree with you. I don't think that Matt Forte comes back in and gets 90% of the carries, but he said he was good to play last week. And so he took this extra time for this Thursday night game to get a little bit healthier. And so while we have to remember Langford in the beginning of the year, he was already used a little bit as a touchdown vulture. So he was it wasn't a 90% split in the beginning of the year anyways. So I just think you're going to see Langford go back a little bit more to what you had. You probably have other options because you picked him up off the waiver. I wouldn't feel comfortable starting Langford with Matt Forte back.
Jeremy Langford or Matt Jones?
Oh, man. I'm going to go with Jones.
Jeremy Langford or C.J. Anderson?
I think I actually have C.J. Anderson decent this week, but no, I'm gonna go Langford over C.J.
Langford just for the touchdown.
They're both backups.
My running back sit of the week is James Starks against the Chicago Bears. The tide is turning once again towards Eddie Lacy, who had a very big week. I think the Packers realize, and we all realize, that James Starks is really, really good in the change of pace role, and he really hasn't been good in that starting role. And I really don't want to start a change the pace back this week against Chicago. Limited snaps. I just don't want him in my lineup, so I'm sitting James Starks down. Very similar arguments to Jeremy Langford being set down. So my wide receiver sit of the week, Tavon Austin. Tavon Austin is still I believe he's 23 in our league in the wide receiver rankings, but he's had a terrible last couple of weeks. He's going up against Cincinnati, and I don't like the matchup. I think it's time to sit him down until he shows you something else. They have a different quarterback in play now. Case Keenum should start.
If cleared, he's going to start. Yeah,
looking like he will. But Tavon Austin, I don't want to start him. I'd choose somebody else.
And Tavon is that's exactly kind of what we expected, where the guy is getting just such a low opportunity that what he was doing was not sustainable. I mean, he kept proving us wrong where he had a great stretch of a few weeks, but not sustainable. So I agree. I'm moving on.
The guy that I'm going to sit is going to be Devontae Adams.
Oh, wow.
Devontae Adams to me is, I went out on a limb and
called him out.
I said that he stinks. The reason that he's definitely startable is because he's normally the #1 target for Aaron Rodgers. Well, that's just great. Even if you stink, you're going to have production. This last week, however, he did not. James Jones was the guy that was involved. He only had 3 for 36 this last week, and this week he is going up against the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears, you might not think of as a great defense, but for the last month, the last 4 games consecutively, including matchups against, Phillip Rivers, they have not given up 150 total yards to wide receivers in a game. In fact, the last 2 weeks, to all combined wide receivers on a team, the last 2 weeks, they haven't even given up 100 total yards from all of those. Now, I expect maybe those to be broken by Aaron Rodgers this week, but I just don't feel comfortable starting Devontae Adams when he can drop the few passes he's going to be getting in a game that against a good defense.
Did get reported that Ty Montgomery is out this week yet again. All right, so Mike.
I am going to sit. My sit of the week at wide receiver is T.Y. Hilton.
All right.
And this is because Tampa Bay, over the last 2 weeks, is only giving up 10 catches and 100 yards to the wide receiver core. To all wide receivers, that's all they're giving up on average the last couple weeks. And Hilton last week, 2 for 21 against Atlanta. We know the limitations of Hasselbeck. So and Hilton absolutely can take one of those short passes and bust it open, but that's not the kind of play that I want to have to count on from my starting wide receiver.
And I want to make sure that when we talk about sits of the week, we're not talking about the fact that Mike is going to sit T.Y. Hilton at all costs. He's saying that this is my perspective on this guy this week. He's a starting wide receiver, right? But Mike has him as opposed to up in that starting echelon range. He has him at 31 this week. He's got guys like Michael Crabtree, Golden Tate, Jarvis Landry, Amari Cooper, Alan Hearns. These are guys that he has ahead of him. We're saying if you've got a better option, the kind of you take a temperature of this game and T.Y. Hilton comes out not so good.
Yeah, these are guys we could call this segment guys we don't like very much this
week,
but that just doesn't sound as good as sits of the week. So
I totally agree.
It's all about branding.
We're going to do tight ends.
All right, let me kick off the tight ends.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to kick off the tight ends.
Do we have a good – I don't know even if we have a drop for this.
Eric Ebron.
Whatever. Good
last week, Mike's.
I see how it happened.
Well, he had the best matchup last week against Oakland. Eric Ebron started the year on fire. He is a talented guy, but he hasn't been able to catch the ball recently. In his last 3 combined games, his last 3 that he started and been healthy in, he has 7.5 total fantasy points in all 3 combined. So this week he's going up against the team that is second best against the tight end. The Philadelphia Eagles have given up the second fewest points to tight end, which means he should not be played, and he is going to go off this week. He's going to score 700 fantasy points. Eric Ebron, the bane of our listeners' existence this last week.
And your sit of the week.
And my sit of the week.
My sit of the week, Charles Clay. He has disappeared from the Buffalo offense. He's still the leading pass catcher on that team, but the last few weeks it's just it's not happening for Clay. I'm not sure exactly what's going on, and
He's gone ghost.
He has to take on the Kansas City Chiefs, who are on fire as a defense. So I'm sitting Clay down.
I picked Charles Clay as my sit of the week, and when I went in the doc, I saw you already had him. So I definitely agree.
I'm going to go with Jason Witten. You just can't trust it right now. Going up against Carolina on Thanksgiving, single digits the last 4 games. I don't see it changing against Carolina. That's the long and the short of it.
Yeah, now let's get positive.
Starts of the week.
We've never done these back to back. I mean, this is. You realize how much more of this episode there is?
Oh, I felt like we were at the end, and then I kept scrolling. And
No. We got all the matchups. All right. Quarterback start of the week, or as I like to call it, my board of the week. I'm going with Blake Bortles, baby. He's at home against San Diego, and they've all but given up.
Yeah,
I really believe that. I love the matchup. I love the momentum. Jacksonville hasn't won 2 games in a row in forever. They got 2 in a row right now. They're in Jacksonville. Bortles is very high on my rankings this week. So if you have him, I know you're a little bummed out over the last performance that you saw from him, but I have him at 8 this week, and I think he has the potential to be in that top 5 with a good week.
And I'm going with Eli Manning. Back to the Giants. He's coming off of the bye, and he just dropped 360-2 on the Patriots. He has a delightful matchup in Washington. So I really like Eli Manning. I believe he's as high as number 3 for me this week. So I love him. Love him with many smooches this week.
Yes. I love him as well. My start of the week sounds obvious at first glance. It is Big Ben Roethlisberger, but I know that there are a lot of questions coming in as to whether or not you start him. He's going up against the Seattle Seahawks. In Seattle, that sounds terrible. And when you look at the stats on the year and you go, wow, the Seahawks, they're the 4th best against the quarterback. So they are what we thought they are, except they're not really. Because when you look deeper at the numbers, you see that they played Chicago without Jay Cutler. They played San Francisco with the Blaine Gabbert new back. They played Dallas without Tony Romo. They have a bunch of games where they shut down garbage quarterbacks, but Carson Palmer goes to Seattle, puts up 363 yards and 3 touchdowns, and the offense of the Arizona Cardinals are very similar to the offense with a healthy offense in Pittsburgh, where Bruce Arians is from. So I think Big Ben has a fine game. I have no problem starting him. I think he's like my 5th or 6th quarterback this week. So don't be afraid of the Seahawks. He's got enough weapons there to get it done.
All right, running backs. Mike, why don't you kick it off? My
running back start of the week. Javorius.
I love it.
Yeah. Oh, Jason's dabbing. We Googled what dabbing was. Don't worry, Foot Clan.
Yeah, we took care of that.
We looked it up. Had to do some research. I've never felt older in my life when I had to say, Google, what is dabbing?
Well, and the answer we got was great because dabbing is dabbing.
Yeah. It's a hot new dance, apparently, that the kids are doing these days.
It's a lot like a sneeze, but it's a dance.
but
because I can sneeze with the best of them.
So my start is Javorius Allen. He's coming. There's no one else really to take carries, and he's playing the Browns, one of the worst running defenses in the league. I expect lots of rushing yards and a lot of dump offs from Matt Schaub. So I love Allen this week.
My running back start of the week. You say that the Browns are one of the worst in the league, and they are. You want to know the only team that's worse than them? The San Diego Chargers.
Oh, man.
They have no running game. You saw that last week when Charkandrick West started tearing them up, went down, and then his backup came in and tore them up. So I'm going with the guy who we just said today has not scored 20 fantasy points in a single game, which is T.J. Yeldon. I love the start. I think they're going to be able to run on San Diego because, of course, they are. And T.J. Yeldon is super involved, gets the carries, gets involved in the passing game. Love him.
All right, I'm going to go with Thomas Rawls. Now, everybody who has him is probably starting him. But look, when you look at the numbers, Pittsburgh is number 1 against fantasy running backs. But I believe Thomas Rawls, the workload, we talked about Seattle, 147 yards a game average. Pittsburgh gave up a lot of yards and fantasy points to Frank Gore a couple of weeks ago, and Thomas Rawls ran like a maniac last week. So I'm very confident starting him in one of my 2 running back spots. My wide receiver start of the week is actually Stevie Johnson.
Ooh.
Stevie Johnson faces Jacksonville. He's really their one viable passing option right now. 7 catches in back-to-back weeks. He hasn't done a ton with them. Been very good in PPR, so in PPR leagues, I'm really confident starting Stevie. But he's my start of the week at the wide receivers.
My start of the week is a bit of a gamble, but, I mean, that's what he is every single week that you play him. It's Deshaun Jackson. Deshaun Jackson is back. He is finally healthy. He's a big boom or bust candidate, but if you're going to boom, you're going to boom against the New York Giants secondary. So this is a game that Vegas says has it's got the second highest line for total points scored. If you're Kirk Cousins, you're looking to get, Deshaun Jackson free over the top. So I think this is a game you can play him, and he could, very well catch one of those 60-yard touchdown bombs this game.
And I'm going with Travis Benjamin because Josh McCown is back. Josh McCown is going to drop bombs. The last time McCown faced Baltimore was that huge game, the 400 yards.
plus yards.
And in that game, Travis Benjamin put up 6 for 83, so I like Benjamin this week.
Okay, let's go to the tight end position.
At the tight end position, I am starting Rule 86, everybody, Rule 86, because he faces the Giants, and this is only if he's healthy, because we know the MCL is a big part of his game, as well as Antonio Gates. He's expected to play, and the Giants are horrific against the tight end, so I think that Jordan Reed from Washington can have a huge game, and I'll leave it at that. What?
There was a listener who wrote in this morning and said we are the MCL to their fantasy football game.
Very nice.
So, yeah.
All right, I am going with my special man, the butter man himself, Betty Crockett Gilmore.
Oh, my God.
Betty Crockett Gilmore is my new favorite player. Just because I love butter so much and he reminds me of it.
Betty Crockett Gilmore.
Betty Crockett Gilmore.
Still. Oh, my goodness.
So here's the deal. He's about the only option left over there with Jay Cutler going down. Normally backup quarterbacks, you've seen him come in and use the tight end more. Steve Smith is gone, a good pass-catching option, and Justin Forsett is gone. And Crockett Gilmore has been more and more involved. Last week he had over 100 yards, and this week he's going up in Cleveland against a team that is, able to give up plenty of yards. So I think Crockett Gilmore is both a safe play, and he is a good option to get a touchdown this week, and that's what I look for in a tight end.
And that's really exactly what I was going to say, which is that you want to have a nice floor for your tight end position. There aren't a lot of guys. I mean, people like Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce hasn't had a lot of boom games, but he gives you a nice floor. And the guy that I like for that, and my start of the week at the tight end position is
start of the year.
Pretty much. Third time I've done it, but his ownership percentage doesn't reflect. You got to start him. Delanie Walker against Oakland, okay? And it's not just because this Oakland matchup, right? Like they did that. They gave up a ton to tight ends the first 4 weeks. They haven't been as bad since then. But Delanie Walker has 6 or more catches in 5 of 6 games. That's exactly what you want. Potential for a touchdown. Marcus Mariota is my stream of the week from yesterday. So Delanie Walker, you can roll him back out there if you enjoyed him last week. So those are our sits of the week, our starts of the week, and it's time to talk games.
Oof.
Fantasy Forecast.
If you think this episode's ending, you're wrong.
We need to work.
It's never ending.
It's only just begun.
we need to work a nap break into here. And I was gonna,
Into this one?
just in the if we could just pause for about 10 minutes so I could take a power nap and get ready for the fantasy
I
forecast.
just slap
I'm
you.
just glad you showed up today.
I almost did.
I had to text you on the way here to the studio, and I was like, 3 question marks. You know what that means? Where are you?
Yeah,
And then you walked in, and your hair was all rock star.
It's rockstar hair.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is. It
Yeah,
reminded me of, it's that or homeless person.
that's
I don't
hair
know.
envy.
All right. There you go. Let's start it off. It's Thanksgiving Day games, which I adore, right? Every Thanksgiving, I have to navigate the television because my family, a few people watch football, most people don't, and so I have to kind of like navigate how to get the TV on in the background,
Right.
and then if the meal time is anywhere in the vicinity, I have to. It's a very difficult situation.
The great thing about Thanksgiving football is that a lot of families don't have to do that. That's the one day where it's like, oh, that's just tradition. You put the games on. And
I'm working on it.
Yeah. So
because I'm going to my parents' house. If it was at my house, it would be my rules, and we wouldn't even eat.
There you go.
No, we would eat.
Well, as you come together with family around football, let's be honest, tell them about the fantasy footballers. So your family needs the help. Trust me.
Eagles, they take on the Lions. The Lions always play on Thanksgiving. This is an interesting game. The Lions are favored, or I'm sorry, the Eagles are favored by a point. So fantasy-wise, what are we looking at in this matchup?
Well, first off, we got to figure out who the quarterback for the Eagles is. The news came out that Bradford was cleared, but we don't know if he's going to start. Sounds
Because
like
he has more than a concussion.
right, and so we got to figure out what's going on up there. There's a John Fox situation brewing in Philadelphia. I don't appreciate this, Chip Kelly. Let's get it together. We need to know.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about streaming one of those two quarterbacks, we do need to know. I don't think it makes a big difference. When I was statting my players out and considering who's starting, I don't think I really change anyone. There's nobody that I think goes definitely up or definitely down with the change between Bradford and is there anybody that you guys see where it's going to make a big effect on anybody?
Well, if I'm playing, let's say I'm desperate for a defense, and the Lions have been great recently.
Yeah.
It does make a little bit of a difference. If it's Sanchez, I'm confident there's going to be some interceptions. If it's Bradford, there probably will be. But
I would be confident.
But I would just say that if it's Sanchez, you know that there's going to be at least one or two picks coming. And so let's break down these positions.
I do have one thing I want to mention right off the bat.
Okay.
And he is somebody that could have very easily be a start or stream of the week. And that is Brent Selleck. Brent Selleck is likely to be the only tight end of this game because Zach Ertz is in the concussion protocol. The concussion protocol is supposed to last 5 days.
Right.
So the odds of him playing on Thanksgiving are very, very low. And Brent Selleck had a good game a couple weeks ago. So Brent Selleck is somebody who, if you're at the bottom of the barrel, if you're staring down another Ebron start, I'd rather start Brent Selleck.
Absolutely. No, I like that start a lot. From the tight end, I mean, yeah, you've got Ebron on one side and Selleck on the other, and that's good. From the running backs, this is a crazy polar game when it comes to running back situations between these two teams. You have the Lions allow the most in the league by a wide margin of 2+ rushing touchdowns in a game, and on the other side, the Eagles have allowed no rushing touchdowns in 80% of their games. So
I don't expect them to give up a rushing touchdown in this one either to Joique Bell and company.
Yeah, that's
according to some metrics that we were looking at yesterday. Joique Bell has had what would be defined as a bust game every single game of the entire season.
That's so weird.
Yeah, right.
And Ryan Matthews, speaking of concussion protocol, Ryan Matthews is still in the protocol. I do not expect him to play, which is another huge opportunity for DeMarco Murray. Now, Murray, play calling, game flow, not sure what happened, but he did not seize the opportunity last week, and Sproles was able to rattle off a touchdown.
That's what I was going to ask you. Darren Sproles, do you start him, Jason?
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, it depends on your. It depends on your.
Darren Sproles, Duke Johnson.
I kind of like Duke this week.
Yeah, Duke because McCown's back.
With McCown and against Baltimore. But I would absolutely be willing to start Darren Sproles. You saw last week he was involved, had almost 40 yards through the air, 20 on the ground, and he got a touchdown. You look at the fact that the Lions give up touchdowns to the running back position. That being said, these Lions are playing really good. So he would be a deeper flex option for me.
Okay. So would you start, just to throw some names out there, would you start Rashad Jennings or Darren Sproles?
Jennings, coming off a bye, being the starter.
Charles Sims or Darren Sproles?
Ooh. Man, probably Sims, but that's pretty close.
I think I would go Sproles there. I like Sims more as a player I want on my team.
All right, last one. Carlos Williams or Darren Sproles?
Darren Sproles.
Sproles.
Okay.
And a guy who could have easily been a sit of the week, If everyone wasn't already sitting him, is Jordan Matthews, who's been highly disappointing.
Terrible.
And I'm not sure what's going to happen as far as the coverage, but Darius Slay up in Detroit has been a monster the last 3 games.
Shutdown corner.
I believe he's allowed about 17 yards.
Yeah, I was going to say 1 catch or something.
In the last three weeks. So if he is on Matthews or whoever Darius Slay is on, there's going to be trouble for that wide receiver.
It's also another reason I like Selleck this week. So we're starting Calvin Johnson. I think Golden Tate is somebody that we kind of like. I don't know what's going on in Philadelphia, to be honest, with the defense and everything. That was such a weird game last week. But any other thoughts on this game before we move it on?
The last thought, are you still confident? Because I'm asking for a friend, not for me, not the guy who owns the Eagles defense. Are you still confident starting them as a defensive unit coming off of that horrific loss to Tampa Bay?
I am confident. Even after that horrific loss, I believe they're the 4th highest scoring defense in the league. The Lions aren't exactly an offense. They've been doing great on defense, but they're an offense that can do a pick six, every other game. So I'm not off of the Eagles. I would start them in this game.
I generally, when I see that type of thing happen, I wait a week to start the defense because I want to see what the trend looks like. You have defenses that are trending really positive now. Kansas City, Houston. You got defenses that are going the other direction. The Jets haven't been that good, that type of thing. So let's move on here to the other Thanksgiving Day game. We have 3 of them. This is the Panthers going to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. In the game I'm looking forward to the most because I want to see Cam Newton and Tony Romo and this battle on Thanksgiving Day, the undefeated team. Cam Newton, since I believe week 5, is the #1 quarterback in fantasy football. We looked this up yesterday. That is a start every week guy. You never sit him down. Baseline very high for Cam Newton. And, the truth is they're a team that runs the ball a ton. Jonathan Stewart's got, I believe, 6 straight weeks of 20-plus carries. 53% of their plays are running plays because Cam Newton is taking the read option.
And Tolbert gets involved, too. They run all the time.
Doesn't Tolbert seem like the perfect Thanksgiving Day running back?
Oh, he sure does. He is thankful for...
Yeah, he's thankful for a job. Mike Tolbert, Jonathan Stewart, Darren McFadden. We had this discussion earlier in the week. We kind of like McFadden a little bit more rest of season than Jonathan Stewart. What about this game specifically?
Oof, man. Darren McFadden is just his floor is so great. I mean, the offense. I expect the Cowboys' offense to be to continue rolling. I know Carolina has a great defense, but with Romo back, and this is actually as a counterpoint. Let me get your opinion on this. Tony Romo hasn't played football in weeks, right? He comes in, he plays Sunday, so he's getting hit. You've got to deal with that NFL soreness. He's on a very short rest and has had no time really to acclimate to the game. Do you think that can affect Tony Romo's performance at all?
I do. I think it can affect play calling. Now, I'm not saying you bench Romo, but one, it's a bad matchup, right? You've got him going up against a great defense in a short week. So I think it can affect him, but I'm not going to go crazy on that. To answer Andy's question, I like Darren McFadden better in this game. Both defenses are good. It's not like the Panthers have a good defense and Jonathan Stewart's going to be able to run all over the Cowboys. Both running backs are going to come up against tough defenses. I think that Darren McFadden, he doesn't get split. Stewart does give up. He cedes more carries to Tolbert and Cam than DMC does to Turbin.
I mean that's a tough argument for me because Stewart's #2 in the league in carries. So.
Yeah, to me it's the catches. The catches sets Darren McFadden.
You guys want to make a bet? Stewart versus McFadden? Because I'd take Stewart in this game.
That's a fun one to me on Thanksgiving. You got it,
I mean, you just
buddy.
said McFadden, so.
Waterbed.
Now we got something else to pay attention to on Thanksgiving. So Stewart versus McFadden. To answer your Romo question that you were posing, I'm not worried about it. I agree that it could be a problem, but he also gets the benefit of now being acclimated to a game. I wanted to wait for Romo to have a game back before I felt confident in him. Now that he's got a second game at home, I'm okay with it. You're starting Des Bryant. What about Devin Funchess? Would you flex Devin Funchess this week?
If you are if you're desperate, maybe as a wide receiver 3 or a flex, but that's the highest consideration I can give him.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's very fair. Very fair. I'm trying to see exactly where we have him ranked. At the best, one of us has him at 30 this week, 46 on the worst. He's our 40th by consensus. So he's outside that top 3. So deeper leagues where you got 3 wide receivers and a flex, maybe those are leagues you're thinking about. Devin Funchess. So Witten was a sit of the week for me. Do you guys agree with that take, or are you okay with Witten?
I would prefer to sit him. Tight end is that tricky position.
It is.
I don't know if you have a better option off of the waiver wire. But I agree that you need to temper your expectations. The Panthers are a tremendous defense against the tight end.
All right. Anything else you want to talk about in this matchup?
Nope.
Okay, let's move it on. Bears taking on the Packers. Packers heavily favored. The Bears have been in a lot of games lately, either winning them or a tight one this past week and couldn't get the 2-point conversion. This game, it's going to be cold. There might be a little bit of rain. What are we seeing here?
I'm calling it right now. This is the game that Eddie Lacy starts rolling. The Chicago Bears, Eddie Lacy has feasted on them in the past. I think it continues, especially when you have a factor of the weather, which I'm not going to buy completely into it, but it's colder. And I like Lacy, who just had 100 yards on a good defense, good running defense, gets to come into a division game. The Packers are desperate to stay in the race for a bye week into the playoffs. I think that Lacy is going to run free like a man possessed by the need for turkey. So I love Eddie Lacy this week.
Well, I got a little hungry when you said he was going to get on a roll.
Yeah, we actually, all 3 of us have Eddie Lacy this week as an RB1. You do have him the highest, Mike, at 8, but Andy and I have him at 10 and 11. So I completely agree with the take. I think Eddie Lacy, in a game that's going to have probably some light rain, you hand the ball off, and I like it.
Yeah. So, I mean, let me put perspective into that Lacy start, because I don't feel great having to start Eddie Lacy after one good game, but I got Eddie Lacy ahead of Mark Ingram this week.
Ooh.
And Mark Ingram's taking on the Texans and the Texans defense in Houston, but I like Lacy, like Mike just brought up.
Yep. In the Langford Forte situation, we've already kind of discussed that. If you have to start one, I'm going to start Forte. And so let's move to the wide receivers of Alshon Jeffrey. Is this guy going to play?
Nope.
Oh,
I think he will.
You do?
I
That's
do.
a tough one. We'll not be able to give you another piece of news because this game's tomorrow.
so
Yeah.
if he doesn't play, are we on Marquise Wilson alert again?
Absolutely. If he doesn't play, it doesn't look like Royal's going to play, and then they've got to throw it to someone. And Marquise Wilson is a great option. We've seen him have fine games in every game that those 2 guys are out. So this is a higher scoring Vegas game. So even if the Packers are winning by a lot, you've got to have Jay Cutler throwing the ball. He's got to throw to somebody. So I do like him. But I expect Alshon to play. That's just based on, I think the reason they sat him this last week against the Broncos was because the short week coming up, give him a little extra rest.
All right, the Bills go to Kansas City to take on the Red Hot Chiefs, and that Chiefs.
The Red Hot. I thought you were going to make a Red Hot Chili Peppers joke.
Oh no, I wasn't.
Red Hot Chiefy Peppers.
No, I wasn't going to go there because it would have sounded like that.
Yep.
All right, the Bills taking on the Chiefs. Let me give you this stat nugget, all right? Chiefs average the most rushing touchdowns per game of any team in football. Shar West, if he doesn't play, Spencer Ware, do you roll him out there? Because you got the both sides of this, right? The Chiefs average the most rushing touchdowns, but the Bills have played very good on defense. The Bills are right now 10th against the run. So where's the balance?
Yeah, well, the balance, I guess, is it's a wide gap of what you could do. I believe that Ware will have a fine game against the Bills if Char West doesn't play because of what you said. The Chiefs have been more and more dedicated to the run because their defense has been playing better, and they've been a better team playing that way as opposed to the beginning of the year where they were really trying to force the issue to Jeremy Maclin, who was almost my sit of the week. They were trying to force a passing game that wasn't what the team was built for. Even after losing Jamal Charles, they really went run game. I have Spencer Ware as my 14th running back this week. I've got him statted as the RB1 for Kansas City with Charkandrick West out, and I think I gave him a touchdown. And so that if you get a touchdown, you had a good week almost always. So if he gets the volume and gets a touchdown, which the Bills give up, then I'm fine starting him.
There's no Nile Davis concern.
Correct.
Okay.
I don't have any. Do you think I should have Nile Davis concern, Andy?
Not really.
The way that the Chiefs have treated Nile Davis this year, of demoting him before he needed to be demoted.
Here's when you would have had Nile Davis concern. If Spencer Ware came in and relieved Char West and didn't do anything.
Right.
But he came in and he ran 11 for 96 and 2 touchdowns. I think he gets
on
the majority of the
worst
work.
running defense in the league.
Correct. I'm not going to overemphasize the matchup. You have two balances there. You're still in Kansas City. You've got a team that I'm okay with Ware. I would put him in that 2, the RB2 category this week. So, yeah.
I'm better with him as a 2.
That's and so and that, you know, what else happens here is you have a team with Buffalo who struggled a little bit on offense going against the best defense in the league right now in the trends at home at Arrowhead. And so short fields are in the cards potentially for Kansas City. They might not have to do a whole lot through the air. I don't think weather's going to be an issue in this game. We talked about Clay as a sit of the week. Kelsey, you're starting, obviously. Sammy Watkins would be the guy I want to talk about.
I say, are you starting anybody from the Bills not named LaShawn McCoy? Anyone from the Bills?
I would consider a flex play of Sammy Watkins based on the feedback this week of the fact that they want to get him more involved. They need to force the ball to him a little bit more. He is the kind of guy that's going to beat the coverage. It's just a matter of targets. So I'd play Watkins over Funchess.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, I would agree with that completely. But given how Tyrod Taylor looked at the end of that game coming off of a short week, I just don't trust him to be able to really air it out to Watkins against a good defense. So I'm not. I would rather sit Watkins. But
Phillip Rivers couldn't do it last week.
If Taylor looks like he did at the end of the game last week, he's going to get knocked out of the game. There's no way he can finish a full game. And you're going to get some delicious E.J. Manuel turnovers. Start your Chiefs, everybody.
Apple turnovers?
Excuse me, I've got.
You said delicious turnovers.
Yeah?
What do you expect me to do? Assume you're talking about the NFL?
That's silly, Mike.
That is ridiculous.
Shame on you.
We're in the middle of an hour-long episode so far. I'm a hungry person. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the Rams taking on the Bengals. The Bengals are very heavy favorites.
We don't know the quarterback situation yet for the Rams.
Yeah.
Andy's almost upset of the week.
Love it.
The Rams defense will keep them in the game. That is all I have to say. I'm not going to say they're going to win in Cincinnati.
You said they're almost going to
I said they're almost going to win.
I love this pick. I could see the Bengals, going 0-3, 3 in a row. It's got to be in their head. So I don't expect the Rams to win either, but their defense has been great. So I like it.
So how confident are you in the Cincinnati skill players? I mean, you got A.J. Green.
We talked about this in the studio a lot this week. A.J. Green's season is a result of Tyler Eifert's red zone proficiency. No team throws more touchdowns to the tight end than Cincinnati does.
Well, Tyler Eifert catches a touchdown every 4 times. Every 4 times he catches the ball, one of them is a touchdown.
Yeah.
Which is a ridiculous stat that is one of those unsustainable things, yet he continues on.
Yeah, I don't know that is necessarily unsustainable, the way they use him in the red zone.
Yeah, I mean, somebody could have made that argument about Gronkowski years ago, and it's very sustainable because you are a high percentage red zone target. That hurts A.J. Green. And now that being said, in this matchup, the Rams defense is great, and they give up 0 passing touchdowns in 40% of their games. They don't give up a lot of passing touchdowns. So if I had to pick somebody to get one, you asked me how confident I am in the skill position players, I guess I'd pick Eifert for one. But I'm not expecting this to be a high-scoring game. And now I hadn't even looked at the line. Vegas has it as a low-scoring game.
Okay, so what about Jeremy Hill versus Gio Bernard? We saw Jeremy Hill looked better last week against Arizona. It always helps.
Not better than Gio, but better than he had looked.
Yeah, that's what
Correct.
I mean. Better than he has looked. And here's what's interesting for me about Jeremy Hill. Couple things. One, he had that taunting penalty early in the game, and I thought there is no way that Jeremy Hill is getting back in this game the way that Marvin Lewis runs his ship. But I think Marvin Lewis has learned his lesson because they talked about earlier, the Bengals did, when they benched Jeremy Hill for the fumble. They were very concerned that maybe that really affected him of shutting him down.